Lamberto Bava. He is not the most celebrated Italian genre filmmaker. He is always compared to his dad, Mario Bava, or to his peers, Michele Soavi, for example. However, he has directed at least a couple of films which I really, really like, and I could talk about them forever. One of these is his first film, Macabre, or as it's known in Italy, Macabro. And Macabre is not the most beloved Italian genre film. It came out in 1980. By 1980, the Italian genre cinema was already in a severe crisis. There was a huge slate of extremely gory films that came into the cinemas around 1980. Films like Cannibal Apocalypse, Fulci's City of the Living Dead, Luigi Cozzi's Contamination came out around the same time, and quite violent films with lots of action, lots of practical effects. And amongst these we have Macabre, which is very subtle. There is hardly any graphic violence or sex in it. It's a slow burner. It's looking back, when I first watched it, I thought, oh my god, nothing's happening. It's really dull. It's all in the same dark house. So, I wasn't really blown away by it either. But over the years, the film has really grown on me, and I just like to say a few things about it to share what makes me love and appreciate Macabre today. This is a very unusual film. The male characters in this film are not typical. A lot of the time in the films of the 1980s, there is this machismo thing going on, which was endemic to those times. Like if you look at Fulci's zombie films, there is Catriona MacColl, but she never kills a single zombie in any of the three films. It's always the males who grab a pickaxe, who grab some weapon and defend the ladies, or with guns or whatever, and the ladies just stand there and scream usually. This is an example of how the women are just there as sort of more sidekicks. And also there is a lot of the time when they're called whores, and they're just there to show their tits and be beaten up, like the prostitute characters are usually like, they say some really corny lines and then they get slapped around by the pimp, by the cops, etc. Whereas Macabre, we have this quite unusual tendency there. The main hero, who's played by Stanko Molnar, he's blind, and he's kind of shown as very vulnerable. The first time we see him, he's this young guy in the bathtub being sort of soaped up by his mum, who's this grey-haired, bespectacled, sort of emaciated old lady. And then Bernie Stegos walks in, who's gonna be the hero's love interest. So it's an extremely embarrassing situation for him to be. He's like this naked guy, and the woman walks in, so he's immediately very, very embarrassed. And then seconds later we realize, when he drops the soap on the floor and he's kind of, he can't find it, we see, okay, the guy is also blind on top of everything else. So yeah, he's not gonna be the usual macho guy kicking doors in or doing any of that stuff, or calling women names, or in any way asserting his masculinity in the film. I mean, he's just this young, lonely, vulnerable character who's very horny. Like, there is this whole element of relationship going on in Macabre, which makes it kind of macabre if you think about it. The guy's blind, he's single, he's a virgin, right? He's romancing this woman. Her name is Baker in the film, and in the German version she's dubbed Baxter for some reason. He's never seen her because he's blind. He just knows her voice, maybe her perfume, so obviously her image is in his head. So this makes it very interesting. So he's in love with someone he's lusting after someone who's never actually, in his mind, her image might be very, very different. And it's a kind of a love triangle, because he's in love with, he's lusting after Jane, who's the lodger upstairs in this big empty house. And at the same time, Jane has a very creepy secret in her, keeping something in her fridge, in her freezer. About the cast, Stanko Molnar, he plays a blind person very, very convincingly. He's one of the best blind characters in the whole of Italian genre cinema. He's up there with Carl Malden in Cat O' Nine Tails. Now there are plenty of blind characters in Italian films, like in The Beyond, Manhattan Baby, Suspiria, but a lot of the time they're a bit exaggerated. But in Macabre, thanks to Stanko Molnar's subtle acting, you really are with him, you really, like, you can see his struggles, but he's got a job and he's self-sufficient more or less in his house, but obviously he's dependent on Jane for affection because he's shut up in this old empty big house. So obviously you have instant sympathy with this poor guy. Just as luck would have it, he's stumbled upon a very dark and disturbed lady and he's affectionate towards her and he would really like to get laid with her. But yeah, it's a troubled relationship because he's in a bit of a love triangle. She's got her lover who we never see, and Robert is beginning to actually suspect that maybe something is wrong, maybe there is no real lover, because he sets little traps and things to make sure that he doesn't miss when the front door opens or closes. Then he realizes, okay, the front door never was open, so how could she receive her lover in the house? This is all very interesting, his attempts to investigate. Robert's character, he's not just a bland, positive guy. Yes, he's blind, yes, he's nice, but he's also got this morbid fascination. He wants to know what's up, what's upstairs, who's Jane sleeping with, and he does everything to find out. He even slips into her room as she's having sex, and he's there creeping around, just obviously with his very fine-tuned ears and not being able to see anything. Still, to this day, this is one of the more original setups I know for this kind of a slow burner story in one location. It's wonderful. Again, the beauty of the film visually. I think it's Franco Delli Colli who's the cinematographer, I may be mistaken. The interior shots of the house, all those ornate banisters on the big staircase, the room, the bed, it's pretty impressive. Like, obviously it's very low budget, so there are no massive crane shots or anything like that. It's kind of like a, Kammerspiel, it's like chamber theater. There is, it's all very, very, like, almost claustrophobic at times. And in fact, back in the VHS days, the way I first discovered the film when I was like a teenager, it was very, very murky and sort of dull looking because it seemed very static, because first of all the colors weren't really there, you couldn't see colors on the VHS very well, and secondly the sound. Ubaldo Continiello's soundtrack really contributes to the film, builds up the atmosphere, racks up the tension when it has to. In more recent years, in the more better reincarnations, now there are several HD releases. There is a UK Blu-ray, there is a French Blu-ray, German Blu-ray. You can really appreciate Macabre in this pristine presentation. Macabre is one of the very few Lamberto Bava films I can think of where overacting is almost non-existent, or it suits the material. Like, yeah, you can say Bernie Stegas goes a bit over the top, but within the context, her playing a lunatic and everything, it does work. And again, the little girl, Veronica Zini, who was like about 12 or 13 when she made that film, and playing a villain, like a young teenage villainous girl, this is like the most evil child I've seen since The Omen, probably. She's great because, again, she keeps it real, she isn't completely wooden, so I really like her performance as well. It's really like almost exclusively a ladies' film. There is this tension between Jane's, like her duty as a mother, as a family. She resents her position as a mother. She takes a lover at the beginning of the film. There is the torrid love affair which ends in tragedy, and on the same day her little child dies, and this is just the first 6 minutes of the film, I'm telling you, so I'm not spoiling anything. There is this conflict between being a mother. This is from the 1980s, so the mentality is still like from the 70s. So when the family thing was really a big thing for women, being a mother and all that, and her having a love life, because her husband is portrayed as this dull, balding, kind of nondescript, suburban dad. So obviously we don't blame her going out buying sexy lingerie and having a love nest with this younger guy and giving into her lusts, because we feel for her. This kind of stale life with her two children. She's obviously not content in that. And what Macabre does great, it dramatizes this woman's conflict. It makes it, obviously it's exaggerated, but it's an interesting way of showing a woman's personal struggle for fulfillment, for satisfaction. And there is also that romance between like a younger, vulnerable guy and this slightly older woman, and the romance which kind of remains unfulfilled. If you know this story, you know what I mean, because there is this still the lover is in the background, the mysterious lover. The only macho figure we have in the film is played by Roberto Posse, and he is only in the film for the first few minutes. Then he perishes in a car crash, and all we see of him later is basically just some photos on the wall. But he's like this kind of wearing denim, and he's supposed to be like this hot guy Jane takes as a lover. So this is the only male character in the film who's a bit more traditional, but he just doesn't have enough room to even do anything because he gets offed very quickly. So this is more of women's film, I would say, which again might be why it's not so popular, because it doesn't have that macho archetypes in it. It's almost like a Fassbinder film at times, with the twisted family relationships, like mother-children tensions, and like the child played by Veronica Zini. She's very, very devious and resourceful. All characters in this film are resourceful, which is great. Like the Robert, the blind person, he, you know, out and about, investigating and everything. Then there is Jane. She doesn't let her mother's status hinder her from having like a full-on love life. She doesn't even let tragedy stop her from finding her sexual fulfillment later in the film. And then there is the girl, her child, who's not only is she very clever and devious, but she's dependent, emotionally dependent on her mum. She's attached and she's craving her attention, and she will get this attention. The horror in Macabre, the violence, the crazy situation, they all have an emotional underpinning which makes them easier to relate to and to understand. It's not like just windows exploding and zombies and worms and whatever. It's like it arises from people's natural instincts, like the need for human warmth, for relationships, or for good, healthy sex life, fulfilling sex life, or in case of Robert, he just wants to lose his virginity and he wants to have somebody, you know, in his bed from time to time. So this is wonderful about Macabre. It's the only Lamberto Bava film which, it has its share of problems as well, but Macabre remains his film which is grounded in psychology, so it's a bit more, I think it's his most mature film, ironically, his debut. Maybe because Pupi Avati was involved, I don't know. So this is the part with the spoilers where everything is revealed, including the ending of the film, so you've been warned. Macabre has always had this misfortune of having its shocking twist spoiled. Even the more recent home video releases feature the big reveal on the cover often, or even sometimes in the blurb description, like there was this Arrow DVD and it had the chopped off head on the cover, and even going back, the VHS cover art often featured the head in the freezer. So you know, that's that really. The story is, in the beginning of the film, Jane and her lover have a car crash and Jane survives and he doesn't. Then she's released from the mental institution some time later. What she's done is, it's never revealed exactly the mechanics of it, but she's kept her lover's head in her freezer, in the love nest, in the room she kept renting from Robert all the time she was apparently in the mental health hospital. She still kept paying her rent to keep the room, and once she got discharged she ran straight there and checked the fridge and unpacked the head. And what she does is she kind of humps the head under the blanket. It's never really shown in the film how exactly her necrophiliac acts are performed, but we do see her sort of moaning and sort of, despite being in the fridge, the head is shown at some point having maggots crawling all over it. which I'm not sure how realistic that is. Maybe there was a power cut at some point, so the head started already turning green and then the power came back on. I don't know. The final twist, Robert's death, it comes out of nowhere. Like, you know, he's been lucky enough to have fought with Jane, who kind of got frenzied, so he pushes her into this kind of a hot furnace thing where she burns herself to death, having killed her daughter just minutes ago in revenge. And so this is the grand finale, and Robert is the only survivor. Everything should be fine, but then he wanders back into the bedroom and we hear this creepy breathing sounds, which I think it's a bit of a different sound effect depending which audio you're playing. I think the English and the Italian audio differs there. And yeah, and then the head just comes to life and sort of flies, like in Zombie 3 style, bites him on the neck. Then there is a freeze frame, so typical of the, you know, Italian 80s genre fare, and the credits roll. So apparently there is this supernatural twist which makes absolutely no sense, and yet it's there. So yeah, thanks for watching. That was me, Alex, talking about Lamberto Bava's debut film Macabre. Please subscribe and let me know what you think about the film in the comments. See you later, bye.